What's up, guys? It's me, Straw Hat Nate, and I'm back with another One Piece chapter review. This week we got chapter 1105 of One Piece, titled The Height of Folly. And for those of you who don't know what folly is, like me, it is essentially just like stupidity. And in this chapter, Saint Saturn, he thinks the actions of the Straw Hats and Kuma and Bonnie specifically are just stupid. And last chapter, we saw Saint Saturn call a buster call on Egghead Island. And in this chapter, we see that Saint Saturn and Kizaru will be staying behind on the island despite the bombardments. And in this chapter, we also get to see pretty much all of the Straw Hats, kind of like a check-in on like the whole situation on Egghead Island right now. And the Straw Hats and their allies are still struggling to find a way to try to escape, because they don't want to fight Saint Saturn. And at the end, there's a hint of an arrival to Egghead that could completely change the whole situation depending on who it is. And there are plenty of theories on who it is. So I'll go over those theories when we get to that point of the chapter. So let's get straight into it. Cover page this week includes Carrot making a stew back home in the Zou Kingdom. And she's with Duke Dogstorm and Cat Viper. And remember that Carrot now has officially became the ruler of the Zou Kingdom. So it's just like a kind of a reminder. And now we'll start the actual chapter where we see that many of the Marines are all retreating back to their ships because they don't want to be bombed by cannon fire from their own ships. And Vice Admiral Dal asks Kizaru and Saint Saturn if they want to like get back to the ship because they're about to start firing. But Saint Saturn denies her request. Two of them are strong enough to not die here, so they don't really have to worry. They're just going to continue and make sure that their unfinished business is dealt with. And Dal looks over at Kizaru because she's still confused about them staying behind, but Kizaru just orders her to go. And when she goes, we then turn over to Vegapunk, who's still standing strong as he yells at Saint Saturn because this is like a logical loss for the world government. Remember that Vegapunk's technology put the world government ahead centuries, and now they're killing Vegapunk and destroying the technology that he created. So it's kind of paradoxical. And Vegapunk begs Kizaru to have mercy on him because he hopes that he'll listen because they're former friends after all. But again, Kizaru's just being controlled like a puppet. And Saturn is relentless because Vegapunk betrayed the world government and he could still be holding valuable secrets that can't get out. And the evacuation ship was full of Egghead scientists, and it's going to be hunted down because of these secrets. Remember that Egghead was a populated city of researchers, and they're all going to be killed. And Saint Saturn doesn't want anything known about the world government to get out. So Vegapunk continues his yelling at Saint Saturn since no one on that ship did anything wrong, and Saturn just compares it to Ohara, where there can be no survivors no matter what, even though there was a survivor on Ohara, or maybe even more than one. After this scene, we jump around the island to check in on pretty much everybody. On the coast, the pacifistas are staying on the island while all the Marines get back on their ships. And on the center of the island, we see Sanji, Frankie, Bonnie, Atlas, and Kuma heading to the vacuum rocket, which is like that long tube that heads up to the Labo phase, because they want to get back up to meet up with the rest of the crew. And Bonnie cries for Vegapunk because he's staying behind, yelling at Saint Saturn, and Sanji decides to stay on the ground to help out Vegapunk. While Sanji runs to help Vegapunk and the rest of them go, Sanji calls up Nami, who's in the Labo phase, and she's with Chopper, Usopp, Robin, and Edison. And to note, Robin here is sleeping because of her injuries, but just to point out that this is her third Buster call that she's been in, which is just crazy. And Nami is worried about all of the Straw Hats, so she goes through a list of them all pretty much, trying to think about where everyone is so that they could plan properly to escape. And they actually recently sent Jinbei to go help Zoro in his fight against Lucci, and they also sent Brook and Lilith to deal with getting the Thousand Sunny and moving it to be useful. And their original escape plan, which was to use the Vega Force 1 to like throw the Thousand Sunny essentially far away, well, that failed because the Vega Force 1 is destroyed and they have to get the Sunny off the island somehow else. Then we actually see Brook and Lilith, who are actually sailing the Thousand Sunny through the clouds, and we don't know their destination, but they're trying to get it to a point where that they can get everyone on it and get out of there. And now we return to the ground again to see the Buster Call beginning, and they begin with the first volley of cannon fire, and the pacifista at the same time fire their light beams, so essentially Egghead Island gets completely wrecked. And it's sad because Vegapunk watches with a defeated look as the buildings tumble in front of him. And these buildings were constructed by him and his team for the past few years, so it's like his life work is getting destroyed. And back in the vacuum rocket, Atlas is driving it and they're zooming up to the Lao phase as fast as possible, but unfortunately they're not as fast as Kizaru. So Kizaru, he uses Ama no Murakumo, his like light sword, and it breaks through the vacuum rocket, plummeting Bonnie, Kuma, Atlas, and Frankie through the sky back down to where Saturn and Kizaru and the Pacifista are. And Saturn makes an order to all the Pacifistas to fire at Kuma and Bonnie now. And he points out the irony here in this situation. Kuma and his daughter, their lives will be taken away by Kuma's very own clones. And their struggle to escape, he says, was just a pointless and stupid act. And Vegapunk watches them fall, and he thinks about how he never wanted this to happen when making Kuma into clones, because it's just really sad to see that Bonnie is killed by her own father. And in the literal last two panels, we see two major things. In one, Luffy is at the vending machine that we just recently saw in the anime actually, episode 1091, and he's like super stuffed with food, so it looks like he will make a return soon. And in the other, we see a marine ship that was sent to the evacuation ship that I talked about earlier that Saturn had ordered to be sunk. And this marine ship was actually sunk by someone. We don't know who. The general consensus, though, is that it's Blackbeard and the Blackbeard pirates, because we already saw his ship by Egghead like a while ago. But it could really be anyone, though, so I'm not ruling out anyone. It could be Dragon and the Revolutionaries, it could be Shanks and his crew, it could be the Cross Guild, or it could be even Neo Mads, just to throw that out there. And that's where the chapter ends. It was another chapter that felt short, but really like jam-packed at the same time. And it was nice to see all the various locations of the Straw Hats as they try to figure out plan to get off of Egghead Island. We didn't actually see Zoro vs. Lucci, although we got a mention of it, but that's such an important fight and we're just not seeing it. It's kind of weird. But Kizaru, bringing it back to him, is still fighting for the wrong side, and he looks regretful of this in this chapter. And at the end, the arrival of someone is definitely something important to keep an eye out for. I don't know if we're going to find out in the next chapter who it is, but we will find out eventually. Odds are that it's Blackbeard coming in to stir up the situation. And we have no break again next week, so 3 weeks in a row with chapters. So we'll be right back here with a video next week. So if you made it all the way to the end of the video, please like and subscribe to show your support, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.